This is not going to be a video about the non-indictment of Darren Wilson. He should have been indicted, given that there was at least enough evidence to warrant a trial, but he wasn't, so we have to move on here. This will instead be about the media and its perpetuation of lies regarding the entire scenario. If you look at the media, and you look at how they have approached this situation from the fucking beginning, you'll notice that the one thing that they love to focus on is how black-on-black violence and black violence in general is a very pervasive issue within the culture of the United States. And how essentially all blacks need to do is take individual responsibility of their own actions to ensure that their communities remain safe from themselves. However, they also love, to the same token, toot their own horn about how racism is dead, and how racism is a non-issue, and if anyone that is left to them brings up race as an issue or of any fundamental problem that's going on in the United States, especially when it comes to police brutality and institutionalized racism, they love to say how it's not real. It's a fiction. I almost said it's a non-fiction, so that's caught myself there. It's obviously a hypocritical stance to one point say that your best argument is that, well, look, more blacks kill each other than whites kill blacks and vice versa, but then at the same time say race can't be a part of the conversation. But let's move forward and let's just say, fine, we'll grant them that one. They are a little on the slow side, so they need a handicap when it comes to any sort of political discourse, right? So let's move on then. What do they love to do further? They love to demonize the victims of these individuals. They love to demonize the victims of police brutality in particular. They love creating a victimhood culture from perpetuators of violence. For example, in the case again of Mike Brown and Darren Wilson, they love to talk about how Mike Brown is convicted of certain crimes. They also love to say that he allegedly stole from or robbed a store, shoplifted some cigarillos from a store, and how Darren Wilson killing this man was pretty much the inevitability happening faster than expected, and we're only focusing on it because Mike Brown is black. Again, hearkening to the first point, but again, we'll grant them the handicap. I love how they victimize Mike Brown because, first and foremost, Darren Wilson didn't stop Mike Brown for robbing the store. The chief of Ferguson PD has confirmed this. Initially, after the events took place, Wilson himself confirmed this, before, of course, doing a 180 and saying he did know about it during the actual testimony at the grand jury. But again, handicap, we'll give him some handicaps here. And they never ever, when it comes to these particular issues, do the same thing for white victims. And okay, so let me explain. So, do they ever focus on the criminal record of an individual who goes on a mass shooting who happens to be a white male? No, they usually focus on how broken his home was, how hard his upbringing was. They usually focus on how this individual who went on a mass killing spree isn't right in the head, and thus, in some way, isn't entirely responsible for their crimes. At least that's the image that it seems to convey. They never ever do what they can to protect the aggressor in those situations as well. So if you have like a black cop, for example, killing a white individual unjustly, I've never seen an individual case on the mainstream media of any sort that is defending the black cop, even though they unjustly killed an individual, and doing everything they can to demonize the white victim of the crime, even if they are justly, have a criminal record or they are evil pieces of shit. To be fair, that doesn't happen a lot, so that's why you probably wouldn't see it anyway, but if anything, it would support the narrative that the racial issue isn't a part of it. So it's really schizophrenic, this arguing that's coming from this side, but whatever. So here's another fundamental issue, is that they love to take what the situation is, and by they, I'm referring to the right, and by the right, I'm referring to right-wing media and those who support the right-wing media and believe what they say. They love to argue with you about what the facts are of the situation. You know, instead of this being a discussion about what is right and what is wrong, we're instead discussing what is and what isn't, what can and can't be. We're discussing literally what happened, when what happened is fucking established. The thing is that whenever these new facts come up, it's like the mainstream media is afraid of changing what they're saying to support the new data of the situation, and pervasively perpetuate their own narrative, despite what the reality of the situation is. Because it seems they're afraid of change. It seems they're afraid of going back on their word. Optimistically. Pessimistically, it seems to me that they want to create discord within the population of the United States. They want to create a rift culturally. You cannot say that you care about being fair and balanced. You cannot say that you care about giving the news as it is and argue about what the facts are. You know, this is one joke that a lot of people love to say about, like, CNN, for example. Whenever they talk about climate change, they like to have one person in support of climate change on one side and one person against it on the other side, when the actual issue is 3 people saying they're against it who happen to be paid off by oil companies, and 97 people who say, yeah, no, this shit's real. You know, they like to take the conversation and form it in a way and present it to you through a specific lens that they approve of. So in the end, what do we need to do? You know, what do we need to do? We need to stop fucking watching the news. We need to stop paying attention to the mainstream media. I'm talking about MSNBC or NBC News, CNN, Fox News. The big kahunas. We need to leave them alone. We need to stop buying into their fucking lies. I mean, and that's all it is. It's just lies. I mean, if there's a little hint of truth, there's just this giant shit pile of lies right beneath it. A foundation of falsehood. We need to honestly admit to ourselves that, hey, we are being coerced into a certain type of thought process that only supports a 24-hour news cycle that, just as importantly, pumps out advertisements to your eyeballs as it does doctored media. Celebrity gossip shouldn't be breaking news. For example, it's this idea that having a for-profit consumerist media is a good thing. It's insane. It's insane. You know, when you have organizations like Fox News demonizing organizations like NPR, who are legitimately just news, no agenda, just news, it goes to show how little integrity they have, how much they care about their own opinion. So we need to avoid these major corporations, and what we need to start doing is focusing on more alternative sources of news. NPR is a great example of that. Alternet, even, is an example of that. Associated Press. You need to focus on things like, you know, facts, actual data. You need to challenge what you're reading. See if you can find another verifiable source. Not going to the one place that supports what you've already made up in your fucking head and saying, well, they said it here, so it must be true. It is time that we challenge ourselves. We need to stop believing anything our fucking overlords tell us. It's time to challenge ourselves. We are all accountable in every situation of violence that happens in this country. We are accountable in how it's presented. We are accountable in how the facts actually surface. We are accountable in how the facts actually are facts. Being able to find them, being able to study them, being able to share them. If we perpetuate the narrative that the facts are up for debate, then you're never going to have justice. We need to stop doing that. And that's really it. So, good job, American justice system, for not indicting Darren Wilson. Good job. And good job also for, what's his name, Eric Gardner, I think, who was chokeholded to death because he was allegedly selling cigarettes illegally. That also didn't get an indictment in a grand jury yesterday or today. Good job. Good job for fucking saying, George Zimmerman, you're innocent because you didn't have enough witnesses. Mike Brown, you're obviously guilty because you didn't have any footage. And really, there's just no excuse for Eric Gardner. It's just because he's black, I assume. And he went up against the wrong kind of cop. So, but of course, if you like. If you dislike. If you have something to say, leave a comment. And by all means, subscribe if you want to see more videos. This is Max and Snacks. Peace the fuck out.